Eight African cheetahs were brought to India from Namibia in September 2020. A few months later, in February 2023, 12 more African cheetahs were brought to India, this time from South Africa. The return of these cheetahs was the beginning of the nationwide Project Cheetah, which was being attempted since 2009. The only goal was to revive this extinct animal in India. The media was in a frenzy when these cheetahs were brought to India a few months ago. But today, hardly anyone talks about the status of this project because the truth is, out of these 20 imported cheetahs, 6 have already died. What is the reason behind this? Will the Cheetah Project be successful? Is it even possible to revive extinct animals in this way? Let's find out. Cheetah. Scientists believe that this animal has been roaming the earth for 8 million years. Once upon a time, these animals were found in Africa and Asia in large numbers. This is the reason why in places like Bhopal and Gandhinagar, there are cave paintings that depict cheetahs which are 10,000 years old. These tell us that once upon a time, cheetahs used to live here too. But unfortunately, today there are fewer than 8,000 cheetahs left in the world. Only 8,000. The direct reason behind this is, of course, human. Because of humans, directly or indirectly, the population of cheetahs has decreased rapidly in the last 100 years. Today, almost all of the surviving cheetahs are found in Africa. In Asia, it is only told there were only 12 cheetahs left. All these 12 cheetahs are living in Iran. September 2022, India also got 20 new cheetahs. Mughal Emperor Akbar owned more than 1000 cheetahs, and in his entire life he had kept more than 9000 cheetahs. Just think about how populous this animal was in India at one time. Akbar's rule ended in 1605, and 300 years later, the Indian government officially declared the cheetahs extinct in 1952. What happened in these 300 years that the cheetahs were completely extinct? The first reason is hunting. In the olden days, many kings used to hunt cheetahs as a hobby. Killing animals and taking pictures with them was considered as achievement in the British era. The Indian kings did this on such a large scale that by the 1900s, many Indian kings started importing cheetahs from Africa just to hunt them. Between 1918 and 1945, around 200 cheetahs were brought to India so that the king could hunt them and make a trophy. The last 3 cheetahs in India were hunted by Maharaja Ramanuj Pratap Singh Dio in Madhya Pradesh in 1947. But hunting was not the only reason behind the extinction. The second reason is habitat loss. As India started seeing the development of agriculture, people started expanding their farms. The grasslands for the cheetahs to live in gradually became smaller. A cheetah needs about 100 square kilometers of space to roam and live. That is, if you are planning to introduce cheetah to Kerala, the maximum number you can bring is only 100. The entire Kerala can contain only 100 cheetahs. So, when there was no space left for them, led to their inbreeding, which became another reason for extinction. In the year 1952, when the Indian government declared cheetahs extinct, since then the topic of cheetah repopulation has been discussed. The first mention of this was in our first wildlife board meeting in Mysore. A few years later, in 1970s, the idea of importing cheetahs from Iran was proposed. Experts said that India could give its Asiatic lion to Iran in exchange. In those days, Iran had around 300 cheetahs, but this plan didn't work. 30 years later, in 2009, a new proposal was made to import cheetahs to India, this time from Africa. The Indian government conducts surveys in 7 different national parks and sanctuaries. Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Chhattisgarh. It was checked whether this plan would be feasible or not. After survey in 2010, Kuno National Park in Madhya Pradesh is recommended as a good place to introduce cheetahs. 2 years later, in 2012, a roadmap to bring cheetahs from Namibia to Kuno National Park was made. But in April 2013, this process was stopped by the Supreme Court of India. But why? There are 2 different species of cheetah African cheetah and Asiatic cheetah. They are not the same. Asiatic cheetah is smaller in size with a stronger neck and thick fur. The cheetahs that are found in India and in Iran are Asiatic cheetahs. The cheetahs in the African countries like Namibia are the African cheetah species. This was the main reason behind the Supreme Court stopping this project. The court also stated that the government had not discussed this proposal with the National Board of Wildlife and that importing exotic species was not the best solution to bring back extinct animals. The Supreme Court said that it would be a better idea to introduce the Asiatic lion living in Gujarat to Kuno National Park so that their population can increase. And anyway, that species is already used to living in this area of India. In January 2020, the Supreme Court reverses its 7-year-old decision. Importing cheetahs was allowed on an experimental basis. Finally, in September 2022, India started the Cheetah Project. It is said that, along with the Indian Oil Corporation, the Indian government will spend around 900 million to 1 trillion rupees on this project in the next 5 years. And the government plans to import more than 50 cheetahs. Till now, 20 cheetahs have been imported, of which the first 8 were brought in a Boeing 747 from Namibia on the birthday of PM Modi, 17th September. After landing in India, these cheetahs were transported to Kuno by military helicopters and released there. According to the procedure, these cheetahs were first kept in a 30-day quarantine in a soft enclosure and later they were released in the jungles of Kuno. A radio collar was also installed to track and monitor all cheetahs. On 18th February 2023, 12 more cheetahs were brought to India from South Africa. South Africa's cheetah expert Vincent van der Merwe, who is also the manager of Cheetah Meta Population Project in South Africa, says that the South African government took 7 months to approve the relocation of 12 cheetahs. And then, after coming to India, our government kept them in quarantine for 2 months instead of 1 month. Because of this, the condition of these cheetahs deteriorated a lot in those 9 months. Next month, in March, a female cheetah from Namibia, Siaya, gave birth to 4 cubs. Everything was going fine. But if you fast forward 6 months and come to today, it seems like 9 out of 24 cheetahs had died. What is the reason behind this? Let's look at it one by one. 3 cheetahs died in approximately 3 weeks. 3 of the 4 cubs who were born also died. The reason behind their deaths was said to be dehydration and heat. The survival rate of cheetahs cubs in protected areas can be up to 80%. But even if we ignore these deaths by claiming that the survival rate of the cubs is anyway not that high, the point is that out of 9, 6 deaths were of adult cheetahs. The first death was on 28 March when 5-year-old Sasha passed away. Reason was said to be kidney failure. Wildlife Institute of India and other government authorities said that Sasha had kidney problems since she was brought from Namibia. Because of this, many experts raised questions that if she already had kidney problems, then why was she brought to India? The second death was on 24th April of 6-year-old Uday. The reason behind this was heart failure. The third death was 9th May, 3-year-old Daksha died. The Kuno official said that this happened because 2 male cheetahs, Vayu and Agni, were attacking her. South African expert Van der Merwe says that aggressive behavior by male cheetahs is not unusual. In South Africa, 8% of cheetah population is because they get involved in violent interaction. They get into fight with each other. This happens because cheetahs are not very social animals. They like to live alone. And if there is a lack of space, this aggressive behavior is more prominent. So one question will arise in your mind. Were all these deaths caused by only natural causes? It doesn't seem so. Look at this article from August 2023. Experts from South Africa and Nigeria presented their problems to the Indian Supreme Court. They say they have very serious concern about this project. The thing is, for any animal to survive, you need 4 things: food, water, space, and shelter. If any of these 4 is missed, it can be a threat to survival. First of all, in terms of food, Van der Merwe says that when they were in quarantine, they were not fed their required diet. But the biggest problem were in the space and shelter. The Kuno National Park in Madhya Pradesh was actually the home of India's last surviving Asiatic lions. The national park was more suitable for those animals that live in prides, like lions, than those animals that live alone like cheetahs. Because cheetahs needed thousands of kilometers of large areas to thrive. As I told you, typically a cheetah needs an area of 100 square kilometers. Kulo National Park size is only 750 kilometers. This means that every 100 square kilometer housed 3 cheetahs. Keeping cheetahs in such a high density is not normal. What happened due to the lack of this space is that these cheetahs were seen roaming outside the national park. If there is insufficient space, they will obviously go out of the national park. But he also says that they should be allowed to roam around. This is their natural behavior, and cheetahs are not a threat to humans. The problem is that this is not only a problem with space, there is also a lack of fourth point, shelter. African cheetahs are not so used to Indian climate. On 15th July, Rajesh Gopal said that the death of the cheetah Suraj was due to septicemia. This is a blood infection when due to a wound or injury, bacteria and germs spread through the body. This problem was caused by the radio collar on the cheetah. The radio collar of the cheetah was repeatedly rubbing on its skin, causing wounds that couldn't heal and got infected by maggots. Due to the wet and humid weather, this problem worsened. In fact, the death of the seventh cheetah, Tejas, was also caused by the exact same reason. The autopsy revealed the same abrasion on the skin. Similar potential reasons are also being cited that for Dadri that she had the same symptoms on her neck. Vander Merve also repeated the same point saying that India's extremely wet and humid climate and the way this radio collar was installed is responsible for this disease. Despite all these statements, our government's Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has rejected the involvement of radio collars. Our government says that these deaths are due to the natural causes. But when you ask what are the natural causes, they are not explaining it in details. Overall, the government and government officials are showing signs of gross mismanagement in this project. Mismanagement in managing space and dealing with India's unsuitable climate. And this mismanagement is not limited to space and unsuitable climate. You also saw how the drivers and accountants were made to work on the ground in which they had no experience. This is also a sign of systemic mismanagement. But this problem don't stop here. It seems that there is no sign of cooperation between the government departments. The project leader says something and the government's ministry says something else. In October 2022, just a few weeks after the start of this project, the lead scientist Dr. Jhala was excluded from the Cheetah Task Force. A zoologist from the Bangalore Center for Wildlife Studies, Ullas Karanth, says that the cheetahs will continue to die like this. And the government will continue to import new cheetahs because, according to him, the purpose of this project is not to bring back the cheetahs. Rather, the real purpose was to carry out a PR exercise. I feel like this project can still be made a success if all these problems are acted on immediately. But the question is, will the government take action? Only time will tell. Thanks for watching.